What's up, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of the UNC Football Show presented by TarHeelIllustrated.com, or, of course, if you are watching on our fast-growing YouTube channel, that's Tar Heel Illustrated. I'm THI staff writer Jacob Turner, and joining me, as he always does, is our very own publisher, Andrew Jones. And AJ, we're here for another jam-packed football show. As you were obviously in Chapel Hill. We're recording this on Wednesday afternoon. You were in Chapel Hill on Tuesday for a few press conferences, got to talk to Mack Brown as well as a couple of the new analyst hires and Ted Monachino and Clyde Christiansen. So we're going to dive into those guys a little bit later in the show because I know you were pretty impressed with what you heard from both of them. But I want to start with, I don't know if housekeeping items is the right word, but Mack obviously talked to you guys for a while and he's always got a lot to say. So a few things that kind of stood out, a couple of the more notable things I'm sure a lot of Carolina fans have heard about. Malachi Hamrick announced yesterday that he is out for the season, I believe, with a lower body injury. And some on the positive side, AJ, Tamari Fox, Des Evans, full go with contact, which is obviously a big plus as well. And there's a couple other guys that have stood out across offensive defense, which we'll hit on a little bit later as well. But AJ, can you fill us in on the things that Mack had to say? And let me add this real quick too. Open practice on Saturday. We will be there, get a lot of video and stuff. So we'll be going a lot more in depth on kind of observations about the actual team then. So this is more of just kind of updates on what we've heard this week. So give us a little insight on Mack's press conference and some things that stood out.
Yeah, and practice isn't just open for the media. It's also open for fans. Yeah. It's in Keenan, so go check these 100%. Guys out. Go watch Tez Walker.
Mm-hmm. Should be good, I think. Go watch it. Be really good.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it because we get to see how the coaches coach. Now, the analysts are not allowed on the field yet to coach. Mack is very confident that at some point in the next month or so, the NCAA will pass something that allows the analysts and GAs to actually be on the field coaching, which is good. It's necessary, and that would really, really raise the bar on the quality of hands-on instruction that the Carolina players get with the quality of analysts that they have right now.
Kind of weird that they can't, it's kind of a weird rule. You know what I mean?
I'll tell you another thing, and we'll get to the housekeeping stuff in a second, but I think the weirdest thing, the absolutely most ridiculous, big time, this is why the NCAA needs changing in some respects thing, is the fact that Clyde Christiansen can sit in a film room with Chip Lindsey and Drake May, and he can critique Drake May to Chip Lindsey, but not to Drake May, even though Drake is the same distance away. He is not allowed to look at Drake and communicate with him, interact with him. So it's like you, Dean, and me, and I'm talking about Dina to you, and she's right there, but I can't look at her and say anything to her. So in order for Drake to communicate back to Clyde, he would have to talk to Chip. So
that's the NCAA for you. I'm not surprised, but
Chip's like it's like bumper pool, Chip's the guy that the ball's clanking off and stuff, and that's just the absolute silliness of this whole thing, which needs to change. For an organization that has basically let their guard down and say everything goes, why hasn't this been included yet? Which is ridiculous, amazing, and it benefits everybody. That's the thing. You can argue about the extremes of NIL, the extremes of transfer portal and everything, maybe needing some curtailing, but this is the kind of thing that benefits everybody. So they need to get that passed, get those guys on the field, because everybody will benefit from it. Yeah. Okay, so back to the housekeeping stuff. Malachi Hamrick had a non-contact injury, lower body injury. It was, I guess, I'm thinking it was the third practice, the Thursday before they broke for spring break. And then this past weekend, and he's going to have surgery as well. So likely out for the season, but the lean is pretty strong that he is out for the season. Then this past weekend, one of his friends had an accident. He lost one of his friends as an accident. That's the term that they use. So Macks said that he's having a tough time. A lot of the teammates have rallied around him to help, lift him up and help him through this process. Because you're I guess you might still be an athlete, but you're a former athlete too. When you have a season-ending injury, especially when it's like March and it's football, that's really, really tough. Very tough. It's not like I dropped my favorite glass and it broke. it's different, and it can be highly emotional for these guys. And he was a little bit banged up last year too. So Max said he's really impressed at how his guys are helping him through this. So I think that's noteworthy too, because really a big time talent that we wanted to see how he would progress at Jack this year. He wasn't playing middle linebacker. That's where Sebastian Cheeks is, who, by the way, has a full go now too. I should have told you to mention that earlier, but Sebastian Cheeks is ready to rock. They need him healthy because they need depth behind Powell Eccles and Cedric Gray. I think the number one concern that the staff has as far as personnel goes is that there is nothing behind those guys right now. Hughes Caldwell he's coming, but he's not there. And they want Sebastian Cheeks on the field because the talent level is so high, the IQ is so high that they think that very quickly he could become someone by the time the season starts, that if they have to plug him in for a quarter, that they think that they could trust him and expect that he would do a decent job. Yeah. So that process hopefully now is underway for him, because he got hurt early last year. Another guy went through a tough time, and his dad died about a year ago. So he had a really tough first year at Carolina. So that's kind of it for the housekeeping stuff. They've had 4 practices now. They'll have their 5th practice Thursday. The install is basically in. Mack is very impressed about the spirit in practice and the culture. And I thought this was interesting. I put it in my notes when my report on Mack's presser. He's really working on culture. And he thought the culture was better last year, and he says it needs to be even better. And a sign to him that the culture is headed in the right direction is that so often in spring practice, when teams have a workout right before they break for spring break, he said it's not a good practice. Coaches aren't right, players aren't right, nobody's right, water bottles aren't right, nothing's right, but they have to do the practice. And he said theirs was fantastic the Thursday before spring break. And then when you come back, you got guys that are gone for a week. They go to the beach. He had a bunch of players that went on a cruise. They go home and eat mama's cooking and hang out with their friends and maybe do whatever else kids do these days. And they come back and they're kind of sloggy when they come back. Well, they ran everybody on Monday and kind of run the spring break off of them, if you will. Max said they did a fantastic job, and Tuesday's practice was good. So Mack is one of his narratives is going to be pushing culture. So he really launched into it yesterday. So you guys that are Carolina football fans that are watching and listening, get used to a lot of culture talk. I think a lot of culture talk is coming, and that's partly connected to the analyst hires. And we can get into that when we talk about the new analysts.
Yeah, no doubt. I think culture is massive, and I think it's something that obviously Max talked about since, November 2018 when he took the job. But again, I think it's something he's been trying to build, and I think it's something this program has been lacking even under Max so far. I think it's gotten better, but I think it's so important, AJ. I mean, I'll never forget being on the sidelines of the ACC championship game this year, and being 20 feet away from the Clemson sideline, and just I can't really put my finger on what it was, but obviously winning helps. But it was just a completely different vibe and a completely different culture and a completely different standard on that sidelines than it was on Carolina. I think Carolina's working towards that, and Mack, if anybody, knows how important that is. But I can't stress how important it was. And for me, that Clemson game was a big eye-opener, because you're on a team that's won national titles, consistently wins ACC championships. And I think that's where Mack's trying to get. But I can, just from being at that game, I can tell Carolina's not there yet. But they're in the right direction of getting there, and they've got some really talented guys down there. So, that's definitely something Mack's got to continue.
And I think with this group, Jacob, the fact that you've got Cedric Gray out there and Drake May, maybe Cedric more so, because he's the guy that when he walks in the room, it's like whenever you watch like a duck or something cross the street and the baby ducks follow behind right in line, it's like Cedric's that guy. Everybody just follows Cedric. He is such a sharp dude. He is such an intense dude. He is a really good football player. He would have been a mid-round draft pick last year, but he wants to be a first-round pick. He is self-made in many respects. And he to me, you're going to have a program, and you need good culture in a program, and you need a guy that can absolutely ball out. You have a Cedric Gray. Carolina fans need to appreciate him this coming season, because he's really good. And he's really good in every area. When he gets to the league, he's going to be a great ambassador for the program and everything. But the culture, to me, with a guy like him being the loudest room and the voice in the room, when he chooses to use his voice and commands so much respect, that's part of the culture too. You have to have some great guys up there. Max said yesterday, and this is interesting too, they have the leadership council and team, and there's no set number of kids. It just depends on who gets how many votes, and they're the leadership council. And his first year, they had a lot of dudes, like 23, I think it was. But last year they had 15, I think. And I actually think that Mack is seeing where currently in the modern era with these kids that maybe fewer kids in the leadership council is better because it's fewer voices, but the voices can be magnified a little bit more. There's not as much chaos in the voice, if you will. And I think that having a guy like Cedric lead the way on defense and Drake's becoming that guy on offense, there's no doubt about it. And Corey Gaynor's one of those guys too. I think that sets them up really well, that if they lead by example and everybody follows, you're going to have a better mojo next season. They're going to deal with in-game adversity a little bit better. And people may say, oh, come on, you guys say that every year. Well, actually, they have improved in those areas a lot since he first got there, and certainly since before he was there. And I think that they have a chance to kick it up a notch this year in that area. It doesn't mean they're going to perform well, but I think they're going to handle stuff really well once the season comes.
Yeah. Real quickly, we're moving on to the coordinators. That'll be kind of the last thing we hit on. We're going to keep this one a little bit shorter, but I want to talk about depth, especially on a particular few different position groups. I know you mentioned safety and corner. Mack mentioned safety and corners are really looking to build some depth. Not really surprised when you look at who they've kind of lost and who they brought in. Linebacker we've hit on so big. I will add this about Sebastian Cheeks. I actually saw a photo of him, a Carolina football Twitter posted a couple days ago, and you talk about a guy that looks the part in terms of, there was actually Cedric Gray, Power Eccles, and him, and they all looked physically ready to play. And obviously Cheeks is the one you'd have the question mark about with how last year went down, but physically looks the part. So I think he is going to be interesting to see how he develops. Yeah. And then I know you talked about, and Max talked about, feeling really good at that wide receiver position. And it might be one of the first year that Carolina can actually maybe go 6-8 deep and feel really good about it. So talk about those positions and how they're looking to kind of build depth at those, we'll focus on those three, but of course, they want to get depth everywhere.
Well, no contact for Gio Biggers or Will Hardy this spring. In fact, they're not doing a whole lot. So I would think that right now they would be projected starters at safety, with JQ Conley coming along. I mean, they're really going to bring him along slowly. Last year he came back, whether it was too soon or not, doesn't really matter anymore, but he got injured right away. So they're bringing him along slowly. He's working at safety, so he's in the mix there. They have some other guys, obviously, as well. And then at corner, they're looking for corners. Elijah Huzzy had an interception in practice Tuesday morning, and Matt kind of highlighted the fact that he's just got to know, he finds a ball. Whether you are at the FCS level or whatever level it is, if you get a lot of interceptions and you consistently each year get a lot of interceptions, it means you find the ball. There's only so much of the ball finds you stuff. That's in basketball sometimes, but not so much in football. You have to find the ball. You have to know where it is. You have to break for it and make concerted effort to get that. And that's one of the reasons that they brought him in, that they liked him so much, because he's a balls out, get the ball guy. And he has played very, very well so far. So I think he's going to be very much in the mix at corner. They have to sort things out there, though. And I might add, DJ Jones working out at safety.
Yeah,
no intel on how it's going, but Max says, look, if he's got to move over to running back, they said, we were told when spring practice started, but he was going to get some work at running back too, just to stay fresh over there. But Max said yesterday, look, he's so smart. He understands it. He knows what he's doing there, that if he's not in that running back room for a while and suddenly we got to put him over there because there are injuries or something like that, he'll be fine. So they have a lot of trust in him as an older, mature player, a guy with work ethic that, whatever he can be at safety, he'll eventually be that. Whether it's someone that gets on the field or not, we don't know. But certainly he's insurance at running back. A wide receiver, Mac loves it. He's just absolutely enamored with Tez Walker and Nate McCollum, the two transfers. And I think everybody's really, really fascinated with Tez Walker. He's got big time potential. And Max said that they're really good at wide receiver. And I would think 6 deep for sure, maybe a little bit more, like you said. JJ Jones is not participating this spring, so we won't see him Saturday, but it's a big spring for a few other guys. Kobe Pacer, I thought, was really good filling in for Josh Downs last year. So you could pencil him in. This is an opportunity now for Andre Green, who's healthy now, to sort of have that 5-star talent pop. So I'm looking forward to seeing him on Saturday as well. So they've identified everything. I think there's less uncertainty about things right now than there has been at any time during spring practice, this point of spring practice, since Mack got to Carolina. I think that's a good thing.
Yeah, it does feel like there's a little bit more attention to detail is not the right word. We talked about in the last podcast about all these analyst hires that come in. There's a little bit more, we're not going to let anything slip under the cracks kind of vibe from Mack. And I think the last couple of years have probably got him to that point. I think it's been his ultimate goal the whole time, but it does, like you said, it just seems a little bit different this spring in terms of like the attention to detail is a lot more, we're focusing on even the most minute things a lot more than we were. And maybe that was because they maybe didn't have the depth they wanted, didn't have the guys they wanted at each position. It seems like now it's just a little bit more focus on those very little things that even fans don't even think about. But at this level of football and this level of sport, a 0.5% difference is a difference between a 28-27 loss to, whoever it may be. So I think that is a big time positive.
Yeah.
It seems like that's what the case is right now.
Well, I think what you're saying is it's a 9-win team that says 9 wins are not acceptable anymore.
Yeah, the standard.
Yeah, there are people that were razzing Mack pretty hard on social media yesterday about his comments about, we don't want to win just 9. And, okay, he was promoting 9 3 months ago. Well, yeah, because that was their first 9-win season. Mm-hmm. Now they've taken that step. Let's go ahead and take another one. That's what he's talking about. Mm-hmm. And in order to go from 9 to 10, 11, 12, whatever it is that they can achieve, that's when you get to the point where you start filling in the cracks.
Yep.
And I think that's part of what they're doing. But I think there's a lot of it. We could transition into the analysts right now, but so much, I think a lot of the mood, a lot of the sense of urgency to do things the right way, the determination to get better quickly, and the determination to do things the right way. A lot of that is because Mack brought in guys. I mean, we talk about dudes in the field. He brought in dudes in the room. And for the staff and for the players, they have a motto on defense, and it might be team wide. I'm not sure. I'll have to find out, but I know the defense has a motto that Gene Chizik started implementing, I guess, in January. It's standard over feelings.
Yeah.
And it makes a lot of sense, standard over feelings, because that's what sports needs to be. I think sometimes if you care about feelings so much, then you may not be that successful. And that's part of taking the next step. That's also implementing sort of more of a pro mindset, where they don't give a crap about your feelings in the pros. I've covered all 4 major pro sports, and they don't care about your feelings. It is a job. It's a performance-based business, period.
Yeah, it's nothing personal.
I love your I love your family. He's such a good guy. Let's give him more time. That doesn't work like that. You do the job or you're gone. Yeah. And I think when you bring in people from the NFL into the program that are longtime NFL, that have worked with Hall of Famers, that's part of the message being sent. And I think that trickles back down to what we were talking about earlier with the culture and practice, and the fact that they had really good practices right before spring break and then right after spring break. And the kids, Max said that he was very proud of the kids. They handled their business during spring break. So there is a sense of urgency in the program to move up from 9 wins. And Mack has done a lot of stuff, made a lot of moves to get them to that point, to evaluate absolutely everything. And that's what I love about these analysts. One of the things they're going to do is they're going to analyze the meetings. Like Clyde Christiansen is going to watch the offensive meeting and say, hey, wait a minute. No, you got to do this differently. Don't do this anymore. It doesn't work. So one of the things that Mack has discussed a lot since he got hired was self-evaluation with staff. But now he's being evaluated by a dude that was just coaching Tom Brady a few months ago, by someone who's been in the NFL for 40 some odd years, by another one 30 some odd years coaching in football, and more than half that time in the NFL coaching guys that will be in Canton, rush ends that will be in Canton. Freddie Kitchens was a head coach in the NFL. So there are a lot of voices that need to be heard that carry a lot of weight in that room. And it's going to make self-evaluation so much more effective and brutally honest, which is what Macks said, that Clyde and Ted Monachino are brutally honest. It's going to make it standard over feelings, right? Well, that's what the coaches too. Mm-hmm. So a lot of the people that have talked about, hey, there needs to be more accountability. Accountability is a great word in Chapel Hill right now because it's thrown out all the time, basketball and with football. If there's going to be accountability with the staff, now you can see how that's going to be played out because of the dudes that are in there. Because Ted Monachino doesn't have personal relationships with anybody in that building right now, so he could be completely honest. And even if he does have personal relationships, he's got nothing to lose. He might be off to the NFL again next year. Who knows? So I love the moves that Mack has made because he's added an element of big boy to the program that was needed, but it's also the right time because if you want to go from 9 to 10, 11, and 12, they needed this, and that's what he's done. So Carolina fans may not really know much about Christiansen or Monachino or some of the other ones that he's brought in, but they need to understand that Mack is hell-bent on getting this thing to more than 9 wins. So when he says that, that's the mission. That's all they talk about around that program, around that football center. The kids will hear it in practice on Saturday. If the fans go, they'll hear it. Mack will, 9 wins isn't enough. When I was at the practice, their second practice, which was open to the media, Mack he's mic'd up and he talks during practice. Everybody can hear him. And a couple of times said, 9 wins isn't enough. We got to do more 9 wins. We're here to do better than that. We're here to do more than that. So that's the message being sent. And I think it should be really exciting to people because it's a much more interesting time watching a program try to go up from 9 than try to go from 6 to 9. Mm-hmm. It's a different level. And that's why you bring in Clyde Christiansen and Ted Monachino and why Freddie Kitchens wants to be a part of things and all the other changes. They've made a lot of changes in that staff. Mm-hmm. So Saturday's going to be interesting for a lot of people just to see the new coaches. So you got to be very, very excited about the changes that have been made and the consistency of the message that's being sent right now.
The only thing I'm thinking about is 2 springs ago, I remember talking to you at Lynx about the first time at one of the opening practices. We were like, okay, this Carolina team looks the part now. You got more size, you got more athleticism, you got more depth. This is starting to look like a team that can compete. Same thing kind of last year with the limited time we had with them in spring. It seems like now when you're talking about these coaching and these analyst hires, we're sitting here now saying, okay, I think they've got a core group of guys and I think they look the part. We talk about all airport team. I think when they get off the bus, they get on the plane, they look really good. I think now a bigger positive is when we look at that staff now, it's like, oh, okay, this staff really looks the part now. You don't have a bunch of inexperienced guys. I know it's always been a solid staff, but I think now, like you've mentioned, that NFL level, that 30, 40 years of experience coaching guys that are going to be already in the Hall of Fame. That's that difference, AJ. That right there can make a 5% difference next season. And maybe that's the difference between winning 9 games and losing 4 straight to end the year to winning 11 games. You know what I mean? This year, I think it's little things like that at this elite level that can make the biggest difference on game days. And again, it's not just Saturdays. This is football is 365 days a year, really, when you think about it. You're always working out. You're always practicing. You're always trying to get better, just to play 12 games a year. Well, bringing these guys in that can help develop you throughout the offseason, during the season, you can go to and talk about certain things. They're going to analyze and point out things that you've never even thought about, maybe as a Drake May. That to me is the difference. And that to me is the difference between a good program and a program that's trying to be really good. I think that's the difference that he's trying. That's the gap that I think Mack's trying to close, if that makes sense.
You nailed it. Trying to be really good. And that's where they are. There's no guarantee that they will be, but I think that they have everything lined up to
everything's in place now where
to make the best effort to actually have that come to fruition. A couple of the things too that I really think is fascinating about how they're going to go about things is, especially, once they can get on the field and coach, Clyde Christiansen was working with Tom Brady on footwork in November.
It's crazy, man. It really is.
And he's going to be working with Drake. So that's pretty amazing stuff.
He's a Carolina guy too, which I think is cool.
Yeah. Ted Monachino is working with improving Elvis Dumerville's pass rush, his technique. footwork, pad level, things like that, okay, that's pretty impressive stuff. But I think one of the things that they're really going to benefit from as well, and I can't say for certain how much they had this before in the past, but I don't think it was there that much because, Phil was totally dialed in on what Phil was doing. Jay was totally dialed in what Jay was doing. And then, Gene comes in. But Clyde Christiansen is going to watch the defense as an offensive coordinator and tell Gene, hey, you guys are giving this away. You're tilting one way on this theoretically, okay? Where it's easy to kind of read what changes. Like if they adjust in pre-snap, do they adjust in a way that the offense can pick up exactly what they're going to do? Do they disguise blitzes and that kind of thing? And then Monachino will say the same thing about the offense. These are some things you guys are leading in a certain direction with a play that you're not selling the misdirection of it, if you will. I hope that's making sense. So they're going to scout the other side and say, look, we can exploit that because you guys are giving it away in pre-snap. So I think that that's a big deal because if you don't ever give stuff away in pre-snap, that gives you a millisecond edge from where things maybe were before, when maybe teams did know what they were going to do. Because I thought at times teams did know what they were going to do, and it gives you an advantage because anybody that watches football. Imagine the linebacker gets to a guy a split second sooner. That's the pad level's different. The hit's different. You wrap them up different. And if you hit a guy a certain way, it allows for teammates to come in there and then bring them down. There are all kinds of ways to hit a guy. And just because you hit a guy, if you hit him from the back side, like he's running along like this and you hit him right here, it's a lot harder to bring him down. But if you hit him right here and he's going in that direction, it's a little easier to bring him down. So that's where they are. There's a lot of minutia, if you will, but it's really good minutia. If you're a football junkie like me, it's cool stuff. And I think that that's kind of a good place to be because when you're trying to get to 500, you're not worrying as much about that because you got so much else in your plate first. Now they're trying to move up from 9 wins, which is why these things matter even more now than they have previously.
Yeah. Last thing I want to ask you, and then we'll wrap it up. And we've talked about this at previous podcasts over the last few months from, sources that you have in the program and things we've heard during the off season, between the end of last season and this season. Do you think it's safe to say, and I know you're not at practice every day and you're not in the meeting rooms every day, so you don't, you got to base it on kind of what you've heard. Do you think this is the most connected staff Carolina's had since Macks come back? Just everybody kind of on the same
A lot of it's
page.
new. A lot of it's new. I mean, I think there's a lot of potential with the staff. Max said last year in August that was the most chemistry he's ever had on a staff. And as it turned out,
wasn't really the case. Yeah.
Well, I mean, I think there was a good chemistry there, but as the season went on, I don't want to get into some specifics here or anything like that, but there were a couple guys that maybe weren't tied in a knot to everything. I think that's part of what happened late happened. Right now, I think the potential for having a tremendous staff, including the analyst, is there, but they need to work together. Ted Monachino just got there.
Yeah.
His first practice was the Tuesday that the media was allowed in there. So that was 2 weeks ago. So he doesn't even know exactly what his role is going to be. Clyde Christiansen says he's still learning offense. He said there are differences in the pro game, with the hash marks are different. So a lot of stuff is different there. A lot of the throws are different. A lot of the formations are different. So he's still learning those things. And he's going to be all in here in spring. He said he's going to talk with Mack after the spring, kind of figure out what to do moving forward. I don't think he's going to be a 100-hour-a-week guy. Sounds to me like he's sort of it was going to be in a modified retirement, but can't fully. He played at Carolina. He met his wife at school there. His wife's from Winston-Salem. Her parents are in Winston-Salem, and they wanted to be closer. And I think that for a guy like Clyde Christiansen, being the football junkie he is, and the sort of a savant, if you will, I think there's an intrigue here in going to this place, this level, at this juncture, and seeing what he can do. with all of his football knowledge. And also he's working with somebody, a player that could end up, who knows, he compared Drake to Andrew Luck. So maybe Drake ends up like an Andrew Luck. I don't think that that's unrealistic to think that that can happen. And he's there now before Drake gets to the NFL. So I think there's a lot of intrigue for him about why he went to Carolina, and just sort of to try something a little bit different and have a little bit of a different role, and also give back to a school. Because he did say, which I thought was pretty cool, in the NFL, Saturday's a travel day because they play on Sundays. And if you're home, he said it's the most relaxed day of the week. So the players watch games. They're together, they watch games, and they often will wear stuff of their school. So he always wore Carolina blue on Saturdays, and they would watch all the games, and they were on a lot at night last year. So he and a lot of the guys would watch games, and they would razz each other and stuff. And sometimes they would make bets where if one guy's school played another dude's school and his team lost, he had to wear that guy's school's like a T-shirt or a jersey or something. So I think there's a lot of pride there to come back and make something happen, especially at this juncture in the program. He's not trying to revive something.
No,
he's asked to come in and fine tune. It's like when you build a house, the last things that are added to a house before it's completed are that's where you put the chandelier up. You don't put the chandelier up. Yeah, you don't put the chandelier up in the middle of the process. So now he's sort of the chandelier for the program, and I think that he really is intrigued by that.
Yeah, and I think again that's a big positive for the Tar Heels and for the staff and everybody. So it'll be kind of fascinating as we get to go to these open practices, we get to talk to these guys more, and then obviously once we get into the season, to see if we notice changes and things and improvements in certain areas that Carolina needs to improve on. And I think a lot of that credit will go to the staff and to these guys coming in, and just a little bit more attention to detail on what Carolina needs to do to take that next step. So I think it's all positive for the program for sure. So AJ, we'll go ahead and wrap this one up real quickly. I said it earlier. We're going to be at the open practice on Saturday. Fans are welcome. So if you do see us, come say hi as well during and before and after the practice. We'll be out there doing photo, doing video, probably do a little podcast afterwards as well. So we'll get a lot more insight and observations from actually getting to be there for a couple hours and watch these guys, not only the players, but the coaches as well. Going to be a fascinating day and a pretty exciting day. I'm looking forward to getting back out to
I love going to football.
I don't know what
practice.
The weather's supposed to look like. Let me go ahead.
It's 70s.
Is it 70s?
Yeah, so I'll be sporting some shorts.
Oh man, yeah, 75 chance of rain, but I don't mind that too much.
Public service announcement. Just don't look at my leg.
God, I need to go tan if I'm wearing legs first, man. You got about the whitest legs. The whitest legs in Durham County over here right now, man. So I'm have to get that figured out over the next couple of days. I'm gonna show up there in shorts, but
I think I'm gonna shave too. You notice?
Yeah, man, I like the look. I like the look, man. I noticed it on the podcast you and David did, basketball. Go check it out if you haven't seen it already.
I haven't shaven since before the ACC tournament. I mean, a lot of this is actually hair here. It's just light hair, if you know what I mean.
Hey, man.
I'm getting older, so.
You know me, AJ. You never see me without a beard on my face, so I'm all about it. You keep growing that thing out, man. And
if my wife says shave it, I shave it. If she says let it grow, I let it grow.
I hear you. See, my fiance.
You're getting married. And you learn. I'm very proud of you because you learn young. Happy wife.
Happy life, man. Happy life. That's the greatest advice AJ's ever given me, man. So I'll keep that one in mind as I move forward. Not too far from getting married either. Only about 45 days away or something like that.
You're 6 weeks away, right?
Yeah, about something like that. My math's not as good as yours. I'm not able to do the math in my head like you are, but it's close. It's getting real, as they say, AJ. So the countdown's officially on, but that's enough talk about me and my personal life. We'll keep it moving. And guys, again, keep it locked to charloillustrated.com for all your coverage. And if you want to sign up to be a member, just $8.33 a month. You can be a Carolina insider as well. And the boards are hot right now, AJ. Boards are hot, man. Basketball, football. There is so much going on right now. And a lot, as most of you guys know, 90% of the stuff we hear, we can't put out here. We go on the premium boards, scoops, insights, observations, transfer portal, recruiting, all that kind of stuff. Most of the stuff is over there, and you got to be signed up to see it. So come join our awesome community, $8.33 a month. Link below to sign up to the website. I've been Jacob Turner. He's been Andrew Jones. We appreciate you guys watching as always. Make sure you like, share, subscribe, hit that notification bell as well. We'll see you on the next one. Thanks.